Hello, my friends. It's Kirsten, and the reason I start this video with a little bit of a pause and hesitation is that I didn't want to talk about this, but hey, I am here for you. I am that girl who talks about the things no one wants to talk about in the ballet realm in order to shed light on certain issues, to let you guys know who are maybe struggling with the things I talk about, that you are not alone, that your feelings are normal, but you also have hope to get through them if they're hindering you. And so it would be honestly a disservice if I didn't finally just buck up and talk about toxic thinness culture in ballet. It is certainly there, it's real, and though I really hope that you'll understand, a lot of times in this video I might slip into talking in generalizations. Please understand that I'm really doing my best to represent what I've seen in my experience training all the way from a small town studio to Houston Ballet Academy, going to summer intensives all across the US, dancing in a professional company, and having friends in almost every major company in the US, and talking to dancers all over the world as a part of my job as a mindset coach for dancers. I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on what is generally true, but please be kind in the comments, be patient. I hope that what I have to say is truly constructive, though I will talk about some really harsh realities. It is my hope and my prayer that this is used for the edification of dancers, and by calling out what is lurking in the darkness, that we can start to be a part of the solution. And what I'm going to break down in this video specifically is first, what the common mentality is. What's the truth about this toxic thinness culture, and what does it really look like for a dancer? And then I'm going to talk about where it really comes from. What's the origin? Then also, I'm going to talk about this at the end, so please watch until the end. Even if you skip until the end, stick around for my solution that we can all participate in. We can all be a part of the solution, not only for ourselves, for our own freedom, and so that we can all have the state of mind that we are here to serve a purpose. We are here to not waste our life hating ourselves, but rather to serve others through everything we do, and to honor the life that we've been so graciously given. And I also just want to say that we need to accept responsibility as dancers in being a part of the solution, in changing the culture. We cannot just point fingers at teachers or authority figures or reasons outside of ourselves why this mindset is perpetuated. We need to accept that we have all perpetuated this. We have all at one point allowed, even just by being complicit and just watching this happen, we've all allowed this terrible mindset to be perpetuated and this culture to be perpetuated. So let's do this not just for ourselves and for our peers, but for the next generation of dancers. Without further ado, let's go. So on one hand, I've seen two very polarizing views. This is typically talked about by either people who are younger dancers or people outside of the industry. One is that the reality is that, dancers eat lots. They eat whatever they want. They just burn a lot of calories and they're naturally thin. So, eating problems and toxic thoughts, whatever, around thinness, that's not really a thing. Dancers are just naturally thin. That is complete bogus. And I'm also very upset to say that I have seen articles about this in publications like Point Magazine, and I'm sure many other publications or resources for dancers. And I've seen literally articles about refuting the fact that there are problems within the industry. That professional dancers actually eat whatever they want. The specific article I'm thinking of actually interviewed 5 dancers, and I'm sure they meant really well by this, but 5 dancers were interviewed, and each of these dancers were or at least several of them, we eat whatever we want, that's just a misconception that we starve ourselves, whatever. And it completely ignored the reality that plenty of not only students, but professional dancers deprive themselves of food and hate their bodies. And that is so normalized in the industry that newer dancers think nothing of it. They're like, oh, well, everybody else hates their body, so I'm not different. So this is okay. It becomes normalized instead of dancers really understanding, like, no, we can help each other out of this. Yeah, so that's one thing I see. The other thing is that there is a view that some people hold that, oh, everybody struggles. There are tons of eating disorders. All dancers have to eat very little food to stay that thin, which of course isn't true. Neither of these extremes are true. There's something, the truth is somewhat in the middle. The truth is a gray area. So let's talk about more of what the gray area is. So what I've actually seen, which is very prevalent, is the idea, like I discussed, that it is just expected that you as a dancer don't like something about your body, that you're always trying to be better, that there's something you're supposed to be insecure about. And just to fit in with your social groups, you talk about it like it's nothing. Like, oh yeah, I'm having a fat day, or would you look at the way my tight lines are showing today, or oh my gosh, I've got a huge butt, or something like that. Like really inflammatory terms. And this is normal. It's kind of like self-deprecating humor. You know, when your friends are doing it, you kind of do it too. It's just normal that even to get along with your peers and to mirror their behavior, you also are supposed to not like something about your body. In fact, it is a radical act to be okay with yourself, you know, and to not say things out loud, much less in your head, about like, ew, I hate myself, ew, I need to go on a diet, oh my gosh, I look so large and in charge. I've said these things. I've been a part of this. And thank God, when I got into a company, like, I'm not saying the culture was so overwhelming. I never felt like an overwhelming pressure to be thin. Rather, the dancers tend to exacerbate the problem. It's a culture that is passed around from dancer to dancer where, like I said, you're just kind of expected to not like yourself. And by that time I was in a company, I was already 22 or 23 years old, and I just kind of knew better. I was just exhausted of just always seeing that. And it honestly, the mindset seems so pathetic. Like these beautiful dancers, beautiful people, they know that they are not ugly. They know they're not fat. Yet they talk about themselves like basically, okay, you guys can imagine how they talk about themselves. But this is really the subconscious message that I perceive in a lot of dancers. It's really like a self-protection mechanism. It's kind of like, hey, I know that I'm so flawed. I see my flaws before you do. Don't worry, I'm going to call it out so no one else has to say it behind my back that I'm really fat or something like that, you know? And so it's like a self-protection mechanism. I claim it before you do. Don't worry, I see that I'm flawed, so you can't say anything about it. And your thoughts or judgments that are really just a reflection of what I'm thinking about, they don't have power over me because I've thought it first. Then the other side is that there's like a silent cry for help. If it's not self-protection, it's a cry for help, which is, you know, when a dancer is clearly saying really derogatory things about him or herself, and it's out loud, it's really obnoxious, it tends to happen a lot, and it's like they're saying, you know, I really don't want to believe that I look this badly, but I'm really insecure. Would you tell me that I'm not fat? Would you help me believe that I'm not hideous? And it's just like this silent cry for help where they're fishing for compliments, but it's kind of vain, but it's also like, man, they're striving to believe that they're not this thing they fear they are. And that's pretty sad. I want to address that, though, yes, it is important. It's important to be slender in this profession so that you can create a certain aesthetic. Like there are just certain shapes in ballet that were created to look a certain way. Do you have to be stick thin with zero fat on your body? Absolutely not. You just need to be able to see those shapes. And yes, dancers actually, this is rough. And I want to just talk about my own story for a second. Dancers are seen as better and more talented if they're thinner. And that is honestly the single truth I really never wanted to say in a video. I think I might have talked about this before, but when I was in college, I was actually asked to lose weight. And I struggle with that because on one hand, I saw it very objectively. I was like, yeah, actually, I could be in better shape. This is not my best right now. And so I was just really objective about it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get fit. Whoop. So I did. But it was weird. I really don't feel like my dancing got that much better, but suddenly I was getting soloist roles and straight A's, like perfect grades. And something about that just really cued me off to something that happens, which is that there is also this subconscious way of thinking within the dance world that a dancer who is thinner is not only better technically, but there's like some sort of strange superiority complex. Even I've seen not only teachers treat thinner dancers better, like they have some sort of moral or character superiority, like, oh, look at you, skinny Cindy, like you look the way you're supposed to look, you've got your stuff together. It's also that the dancers, I've seen dancers treat a thinner dancer more favorably. Or when a dancer loses weight, it's like when, because that happens a lot, other dancers will encourage them. Since most dancers look at themselves and validate themselves for how they look physically, when they see someone else judging themselves by the same standard, they're also like, oh, thinner is better. That means you're doing great, you know? And we validate each other for this external thing about ourselves. So I do want to address the source of this issue. And okay, so I think the common thing for dancers to want to do is to blame teachers, leaders, whatever, for putting pressure on them to be skinnier. And this is absolutely true for some people. Absolutely. If you have been mistreated by a ballet teacher or made to feel terrible about yourself by someone who has authority over you and who should know better and who should care about you enough to not do that, then I am very sorry. That definitely happens. However, for many dancers, I think we want to believe that it's someone else's fault. We want to believe that, you know, it's just teachers telling one girl to lose weight and then everyone else is scared, you know, that they're going to be told the same thing. But even if it is a teacher's fault for projecting their weirdness around body image and certain standards, if they're projecting that on you, it's our job to take that or not. It's our job to do something with that. We either absorb it and mirror it, or we just let it pass through us and we're like, well, sorry for them. That's not true for me. And even if there is something to improve in yourself physically, even if you could be more toned, strong, fitter, thinner, whatever, you can take that objectively and understand, like, yeah, you can be healthier. You can maybe cross-train a little bit more, but you don't have to, just because you are seeking to improve your physique, that doesn't mean you need to inherit really negative views of yourself and believe that you're fat, that you're ugly, that you need to talk down about yourself, you know, any of these things. The emotion and the practicality of it can be separate. Not to say that's not hard. That is hard. Okay, before I go any further, I've mentioned a few times, I think, the concept of collective thoughts and like inheriting what the group you're in thinks about, you know, how they, basically their perspective, you kind of inherit it. It's like, it's a group hat, you just put it on yourself. And so I want to talk about this concept called a pendulum. And actually, my sister and I made a video on her channel. It was our channel for a brief second. I won't waste time talking about that, but I can link it down below. We talk all about what pendulums are and how to deal with them. So basically, but I'll tell you right now, just the general concept is it is an energetic force created by a collective thought pattern. This could just be comprised not only of thoughts, but beliefs and energy, like emotions. It can have an energetic force to it, and this results in group actions. So an example of this might be, let's use just the example of religion. You know, that's kind of a hot topic, but I've at least observed this in my own faith, that it's really easy to become a part of the group. You feel a sense of belonging with the group. You have rapport, you know, so trust and a connection. And through that, you start to mirror the group's actions. You start to assimilate. And assimilating doesn't just look like acting the same way. You can also download thought patterns, beliefs about yourself, and the same view of the world as the group just by being around this group and choosing to identify with it. So for instance, you can start to notice that you have picked up little nuanced beliefs that you couldn't really explain. You might not have real convictions about whether or not this belief is true. You don't know why you think it's true, but you're just like, oh yeah, I accept that as true because my group does. And so this can be really a powerful concept to apply to what we see in the dance world, which is that a dancer enters a group of people, a group of dancers, a company, a school, whatever. You feel a sense of belonging, you desire to assimilate, and your thoughts will start to become very similar to other dancers' thoughts. And these thoughts, we can say they are not your own. So if you pick up on the fact that you are thinking similar things as other people, and these beliefs are projecting out of you the same way as others, through negative self-beliefs, negative self-talk, you can think to yourself and just know that these thoughts are not your own, and they're not who you are. Okay, this is just something that we get sucked up in. And I really believe that this pendulum of the toxic culture around thinness and ballet is something that was set into motion generations ago. And so the only way to fight this really, isn't necessarily to fight it. It's actually to become indifferent, to understand that this collective thought pattern did have an influence on you before you first became aware of what the thoughts, emotions, energy, beliefs, actions, all this that are within the pendulum you're a part of. Once you acknowledge what that is and see how you have changed to embody those, you can see how those are not you. And you can start to kind of have that so what attitude. Like, oh, everyone else is telling me subconsciously that I should hate myself? Nah, so what? Not going to. You know, if you start to just practice indifference, that is the best way to cut through the power that these collective thought patterns can have over you. I also just really want to make the point that before we go any further, every dancer should know that your thoughts and your just inner world, your beliefs about yourself, the way you talk to yourself, the way you see yourself, that is not something that's just contained within your own head. People can see it. People can feel it. The way you feel about yourself is the way you teach other people to feel about you. That is why even a super skinny dancer who looks amazing, is worth so much less, as far as like value and artistry. I'm not saying like they as people are not worth much. It's just in the realm of capability as an artist, being so skinny and having no belief in yourself is nothing compared to a dancer with an average body who is totally accepting and loving of themselves, grateful for the body they are living in, grateful for their capabilities, joyful every day in their dancing. It just transmits so much more powerfully, or the feeling we're having on the inside about ourselves transmits so much more powerfully than just the way we look on the outside. So please consider that as I go through the rest of the information in this video. I hope that's motivating to really work on the way you feel about yourself, because honestly, that's so much more important than just the way you look. And of course, I need to address that, in ballet, the way you look is still pretty important. But there's this idea that as dancers, like I keep saying, we inherit this idea that we are never enough. Our technique is never enough. Our strength is never enough. Resume, never enough. Parts, never enough. All this stuff. Our bodies will never be good enough. And when you have that mentality, you're just always chasing thinner, better, stronger. But when you have a word like that, like thinner, there's no end point that's indicated there. It never ends. The pursuit never ends. And so you have to ask yourself, why do you want that? Where are you really trying to get with your goals? When you identify an end point, if you have ever even considered that there might be an end goal here, like a point in your life where you can reach a goal and then you're satisfied, you still have to ask yourself, why do you want that? Why does it matter? Is it sustainable? The next thing I want to talk about is the prevalence of the term self-care and like taking care of yourself, being healthy, and how that often is a disguise for being really controlling about every aspect of your body, what you put into it, how you think about it, how you dress it. You're just obsessed, with being perfect. And so often I think really unhealthy thoughts and behaviors hide under this term of, I'm taking care of myself. Really taking care of yourself means trusting your body and listening to the cues it gives you, nourishing it, not just with 100% pure healthy food all the time and restricting all these bad foods out of your diet, but really paying attention to your body and trusting it to also celebrate. When it's time to celebrate and you have a little piece of cake, have that cake and enjoy it. You'll know if you're coming from a mindset of just controlling everything and lack and, just depriving yourself in order to have the perfect body. If you get into a party situation and you cannot stop when there are chips, you cannot stop when there's cake, because suddenly what you have bottled up for so long in restricting yourself and saying no is suddenly released, and you can't stop yourself because you don't trust yourself to just have a little bit and savor it and enjoy it, And so that's one thing that happens a lot. I just want people to be aware of and really honest with themselves about. Many dancers really inherit this belief that they cannot trust their bodies to look good on their own. And yeah, the truth is, sure, you have to really craft your body to look like a professional dancer with muscles and the ability to do all these crazy things. But at the same time, you can also, there's like this lack of trust in the process of cross-training, of dancing every day, of eating nourishing foods, things like that. There's this lack of trust in the process and this feeling of like, oh my gosh, if I let myself slip for 1 second and if I stop beating myself up, I'm just going to become fat and lazy. So there's culturally very little trust that dancers have in their own bodies to be shaped adequately through just being committed in the process of training. It's like we learn that our bodies are our enemies and our slaves instead of our temples, our vessel for experiencing this great life and for actually doing these incredible movements that just make us feel so alive. So before I move into solution mode, I just want to say that many dancers need to know that if your body genetically looks nothing like the ideal professional dancer, like you really feel you are so far from the ideal, I just continually want to reinforce that dancing professionally and putting yourself into a lifestyle that is not sustainable for your body and well-being is so not worth it. Dancing professionally is not the only way to be happy. Okay? And then also, if you are, like almost no one is perfect. A couple of people look like the definition of perfect as far as ballet bodies go, but you don't have to be perfect to be in a professional company. Not at all. You have to be your personal best. I really want you guys to walk away with the belief that we can all start to embody, which is trusting and having faith that you were born with the body you need to live out your most purposeful, joyful life. Okay? You were not cursed from birth. You are not defected. You are not messed up. Okay? You are not insufficient. Rather, we all go through struggles. We all see our opportunities for growth and improvement, but don't misinterpret opportunities for growth and improvement as insufficiencies, reasons why we will never amount to anything in life. It's very different. So trust that you were given the body you need to do exactly what you're meant to do. Okay? Okay, so let's move into solution mode. Woo! I'm excited about this. I don't think I could talk about this anymore. So basically, like I said in the beginning, let's be a part of the solution. Let's take responsibility for what we can do. Not how all this is someone else's fault. Someone else told you to hate yourself and now you're ruined forever. No, what we can do is just let go of what's outside of our control. And that includes other people. And realize that the power is in our hands. Are we going to embody these beliefs about ourselves? Are we going to allow it to perpetuate? Because it's not just about you. We've all been in a room, in a studio. Well, if you're a dancer, you've been in a studio. But we've all had a similar situation where you can see another dancer is so judgmental about themselves. Like they are hating on themselves so hard. Nothing is good enough. And it's like that dancer who's obsessing over themselves and how they're terrible thinks that it's just their own problem. But haven't we all been in a situation like that where suddenly it's like they've got laser eyes and you are so scared for them to look at you? Because even being around that person, you're like, oh my gosh, if they judge themselves like that, they're judging me. And it's so toxic. It's so like it really brings you down. It's like they have all this energy that it's like sucking us into a vortex of negativity. And so please understand that your thoughts are transmitted to other people. Your feelings are transmitted to other people. The judgment you inflict upon yourself doesn't just start and end with you. You are responsible for your environment, the people around you, and how you inflict certain feelings on them. Truly, all words are either building life, building people up, or tearing them down. So let's be really careful about just understanding that we have a responsibility for ourselves. And though we can't necessarily control people who are maybe just projecting all their negative views on everyone else, we can either build up the people around us or tear them down. So let's be a part of the solution. So we've identified, or at least I've shared with you what I see as the common way of thinking in the industry, the collective force of thought, the pendulum, whatever it is. And here's what we can do. Embody the belief and boldly state it. Embody this and speak it, that you are enough. You are on your body's team. You care for your body because it gives so much to you, and you give back to it. You care for it every single day. So you and your body are on the same team, and you will not disrespect it. So that's kind of the foundational belief. Here are the 5 actions that we can take. The first thing is that we will make a commitment to ourselves and others that we will only speak to ourselves with kindness, compassion, and grace. Okay? Whatever other words you want to assign to that, only positive self-talk. It's okay if you get old thoughts in your head or you feel down on yourself, but you know that you don't really believe those things. And in those moments where you're feeling down, you speak life back into yourself. This could be internally, but also, more importantly, you speak this out with other people. Don't let your friends just say terrible things about themselves. And well, first, just in the realm of personal responsibility, this is when, okay, from now on, you will not disrespect your body and say negative things about it out loud. You won't even do that about yourself. You can think these things and address it within yourself, but do not leak that out. You don't want to put that on anybody else. Remember, the solution starts with you. So again, it's okay if you don't feel worthy of these affirmative statements right now. Have faith that they are cultivating the reality in you that you want to embody. And so it's going to feel weird at first, but go with it and be faithful with it. Number 2 is when you see a fellow dancer speaking really negatively about themselves, don't let them get away with it. Stop them. If you are their real friend and you really care about them as a person, you won't make a joke that mirrors their jokes. So you're like, oh, me too, I'm having a fat day. You won't do that and let them get away with saying that. That just means the darkness prevailed, yo. Okay, no, you're going to stop them and say, you know that's not true. Or actually, if, sometimes it's not appropriate to just say things like that. Have a conversation with them. Say, hey, I've heard you saying things like that a lot recently, and I want you to know that you're so much better than that. Tell them all the wonderful things you see in them. And don't just say about their physicality. That is very cheap, and it honestly doesn't mean much. They're not going to believe you. They're so used to hating themselves and their bodies. Build them up as people. Say, hey, you just make everyone laugh when you're in the room. We love you. We support you. We appreciate you. We see the value you provide here. I would be really sad if you weren't here, and I want you to see the greatness that I see in you. Things like that. Build them up. And then encourage them to not say that anymore because it is not the truth. And make a commitment with each other that neither of you are going to say terrible things about yourself anymore. You're not going to perpetuate that, okay? So number 3, mirroring what I've said before already, it is okay if you feel down and you don't like yourself some days. You're tempted to slip back into old patterns of thinking. Just stop, validate what you're feeling. It's okay, it's normal. It makes sense that it just takes time to kind of build this muscle of self-affirmation. It takes time, but understand the thoughts are not your own. Let it pass through you. You can even thank your negative thoughts for trying to help you get to your goals. Thank them, and then say, I found a better way to accomplish my goals. I don't need you anymore. Number 4 is to trust your body and to care for it. You make a commitment that you will trust it, listen to what it has to say to you, and you will nourish it and care for it in return for everything it does for you. If you do abuse it, it will retaliate. So make friends with that body of yours. And even see eating as a time of restoration throughout the day, to replenish your body for everything that it's doing for you, everything that it's sacrificing within itself and struggling through to help you have a full life, okay? So eating, remember, it's a time of pleasure. It's a time of rest and restoration. So think of it as you are nourishing yourself. You are filling yourself back up to do more of what you love to do. Number 5, I'm so excited about this one. So I don't really like to be, like the share awareness, I don't know, is that a word? Maybe I just made it up. Basically the phenomenon of post on social media and be a part of the movement, whatever. But okay, awareness does help. And especially using a movement as a tool to validate the experience of other people and connect us in our issues so that we can actually put the intention out there to be a part of the solution rather than just saying, oh girl, me too, I struggle with this. Yeah, me too. And then you do nothing about it. Let's do something about it. So please, please, please post on Facebook or social media. This is not for my promotion, by the way. This is legitimately because I want this to change. I want to set dancers free, okay? So post a picture on Facebook or Instagram and choose a picture not where you look the skinniest, not where you look the best, whatever. Pick the picture where you look most alive. You look happiest and most yourself. You look free. You are full of life, okay? And I promise, if you are hesitant to post that picture because you feel like there are some flaws in there, no. It is so beautiful to see someone in a picture who's alive and who just appreciates it. They don't care what they're not because they're just there, in the moment. That picture is so beautiful. So post a picture where you feel most alive and post it with the hashtag more than enough, okay? You are more than enough. And in the caption, please explain, it could be brief, why you are grateful for your body as it is right now. And then challenge your friends to share this, to also participate. Challenge them to talk about why they are also grateful for their bodies and loving of them right now in the midst of a culture that is literally fueled by our insecurities. Okay? We're going to beat this thing. And I just know that it will touch, even if it just provides a little inspiration to a few dancers, I know that it's really going to touch someone when they need to read this. By all of us giving ourselves permission to say, I am more than enough right now. I am grateful for this vessel that I live in. By giving ourselves permission to believe that, we give permission to our friends. We give permission to the people around us to also feel the same way about themselves. So start with this radical permission, post that picture on Facebook, tag me, Twin Talk Ballet, so that I can see it. Again, I'm not trying to be all YouTube influencer right now. I want to see your pictures. I want to see you looking alive. I love nothing more than connecting with you guys, okay? So do it. Do it. Yes. If you are really struggling with your body image and your confidence is at an all-time low, you're ready to do something about it, it is my job to help people like you with that problem, okay? Reach out to me. We can have a free consultation. I would love to get to know you, and if you will consider coaching, I help dancers increase their confidence, and confidence isn't just a feeling. It changes what you do, the opportunities you see, and your actions in taking advantages of those opportunities. It changes everything. So know that I'm a resource for you. Please reach out if you're struggling, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.